Strategic communication begins when you stop trying to make people believe in a future they have no evidence for. The unsupported man's mistake is not that he dreams too big. It is that he communicates from the wound. He explains, defends, hints, argues, and waits for one doubtful face to finally admit he was right. But people do not update their judgment because you suffered. They update when your signals change. Machiavelli understood this. Men judge first by what they can see. And if all they see is emotion, scattered effort, and unfinished claims, they will treat your ambition like noise. The cost is simple. Keep explaining, and you remain a theory. Withdraw into resentment, and you become invisible by choice. The stronger move is proof, restraint, standards, and visible execution. Stop asking to be believed. Communicate like a man building power without permission. And this is not philosophy. Steve Jobs, Howard Schultz, Rockefeller, and every serious builder who was rejected by the old room reveal the same law. The room does not need to understand you before you build proof. The proof is what changes the room. But here is the question most unsupported men never ask. What if the reason nobody believes in you is not because they are blind? What if they are simply reading the signals you are giving them? Not your potential, not your pain, not the version of yourself you imagine at night. Your signals, how you speak, how often you defend yourself, how much you reveal before anything is built, how emotionally injured you become when people doubt you, how many plans you announce without visible execution behind them. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, because everyone can see, but few can touch. That is not poetry, that is social reality. Most people do not have access to your private hunger. They only have access to your visible pattern. And if your visible pattern is explanation without proof, ambition without structure, and emotion without results, then the world will not call you misunderstood. It will call you unproven. This is where men lose years. Not because they lack talent, because they keep communicating from a lower identity. They tell their family too much before they have evidence. They tell their friends their plans before they have discipline. They talk about the business before the first customer. They talk about the body before the first 90 days. They talk about the channel before the first 100 uploads. They talk about freedom while still reacting to every opinion like a servant. And then they wonder why nobody respects the vision. Listen carefully. The world does not owe your potential belief. Your family does not owe your unfinished ambition applause. Your friends do not owe your private dream promotion. Society does not investigate invisible men. If you do not understand strategic communication, you will lose time, status, opportunity, respect, and emotional authority. You will keep thinking the problem is that no one supports you, when the real problem is that you are still communicating like support is required. Steve Jobs learned this brutally. At 30, he was forced out of Apple, the company he co-founded. He was publicly humiliated, devastated, and unsure what to do. But he did not spend the next decade begging the old room to understand him. He built NXT. He built Pixar. Pixar created Toy Story, and Apple later bought NXT, bringing Jobs back with the technology that became central to Apple's revival. Pressure, public failure. Action, build new proof. First proof, NXT and Pixar. Power lesson, exile only destroys the man who keeps arguing with the old court. That is strategic communication, not please believe me. But watch what I build when belief is denied. Before you can communicate like that, you must kill the first weakness. The wound. Rule 1. Do not communicate from the wound. The unsupported man often speaks from injury. He wants people to know how hard it has been. He wants his mother to understand the pressure. He wants his father to respect the ambition. He wants friends to see that he is not lazy. He wants the people who dismissed him to feel guilty, so he communicates pain. I had no support. Nobody believed in me. You do not understand what I am trying to do. One day you will see. That may be emotionally true, but strategically it is weak. Because pain does not automatically create authority. Pain without transformation creates pity. Pain without discipline creates resentment. Pain without proof creates noise. The first rule of strategic communication is this: do not lead with abandonment. Lead with direction. Do not make your lack of support the center of your identity. Convert it into discipline, skill, and visible work. Howard Schultz, the man who built Starbucks into a global brand, grew up in public housing in Brooklyn. Later, when Starbucks' founders did not want to pursue his Italian coffeehouse vision, he left and built Il Giornale. By 1987, Il Giornale had 3 locations and acquired Starbucks assets for $3.8 million. Decades later, Starbucks credited Schultz with growing the company from 11 stores to more than 28,000 stores in 77 countries. Pressure, poor background, and rejected vision. Action, leave, build, raise capital, prove the concept. First proof, Il Giornale stores. Power lesson. The market does not care where you came from until you turn it into evidence. So stop communicating like your pain should make people believe. Your pain is raw material. Authority begins when pain becomes structure. Here is the cold truth. People do not respect suffering. They respect what suffering produces. If your abandonment produces excuses, you become another wounded man with a story. If your abandonment produces discipline, visible work, and standards, you become dangerous. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are." That is why your inner world is not enough. Appearance is not fake when it is backed by reality. Appearance is the visible edge of your discipline. You are not the abandoned man asking to be understood. You are the unowned man building proof. And once you stop speaking from the wound, another addiction appears. The courtroom. Rule 2. Stop trying to win emotional court. Many unsupported men live inside an imaginary courtroom. In this courtroom, their family finally admits they were wrong. Their friends finally confess they were jealous. The old doubters finally apologize. The room finally stands up and says, "We should have believed in you." This fantasy feels powerful, but it is weakness wearing a crown. Because while you are waiting for the verdict, your life is still being controlled by the jury. You do not need a public apology. You need leverage. Revenge fantasies waste energy because they keep your enemy alive inside your operating system. The more you imagine the speech where they regret doubting you, the more your future remains organized around people who already misunderstood your value. A strategic man does not ask, "How do I make them regret doubting me?" He asks, "What proof would make their opinion irrelevant?" That is a different level of mind. John D. Rockefeller did not build Standard Oil by asking the oil industry to validate him. In 1870, he organized Standard Oil with partners and capital. By 1872, Standard Oil had purchased nearly all refining firms in Cleveland, and before long, it was refining 29,000 barrels of crude oil a day. The lesson is not to copy his ruthless or legally controversial monopoly tactics. The lesson is colder and cleaner. Power respects systems, scale, and proof, not emotional appeal. Pressure, chaotic early oil industry. Action, build a system of refining, storage, transport, and scale. First proof, control of Cleveland refining capacity. Power lesson, arguments do not dominate markets, systems do. The courtroom is a trap because it makes your emotional satisfaction depend on people who have already shown you their judgment is limited. A man building power does not chase vindication. He builds conditions. Conditions where he has options. Conditions where he can leave. Conditions where his value travels beyond his family, job, city, and old social circle. Stop trying to be declared right. Become difficult to ignore. If you are the right viewer, stop false progress. You already know the problem is not lack of information. It is that your life has too many explanations and not enough proof. Stay the same, and you will keep mistaking emotional intensity for movement. Inside Patreon, I build the deeper system: private frameworks, unfiltered breakdowns, proof, positioning, discipline, funnels, leverage, and self-command. It is not for men who want comfort. It is for men who are ready to become measurable. The decision is yours. But how does an unsupported man turn invisible ambition into visible authority? He builds a proof ladder. Rule 3. Build a proof ladder. Communication becomes powerful when every claim has evidence beneath it. The unsupported man wants respect from the floor. He wants to stand at the bottom of the mountain and have people clap for the summit he has not reached yet. He wants the world to believe the future version of him before the present version has built a trail. But respect is earned by climbing. Without a ladder, every claim sounds like noise from the floor. Here is the proof ladder. Step 1. Private discipline. Before anyone believes you, you must become predictable to yourself. If you cannot trust your own pattern, do not expect the world to trust your promise. Step 2. Repeated output. Not one emotional burst. Repetition. One post does not build authority. One workout does not build a body. One business idea does not build a company. Repetition tells the world this is not a mood. Step 3. Measurable skill. Something that can be seen, sold, tested, judged, or improved. A skill that cannot be measured is difficult to respect because it gives people nothing concrete to evaluate. Step 4. Public artifact. A video. A portfolio. A product. A case study. A transformation. A documented result. This is where invisible effort becomes visible evidence. Step 5. Social proof. Someone else sees value. Someone else responds. Someone else pays attention. Now the judgment is no longer only yours. Step 6. Market response. Views, money, clients, subscribers, members, opportunities, referrals. This is where attention begins to prove demand. Step 7. Reputation. People begin associating your name with a specific value. You are no longer a man with vague ambition. You become known for a function. Step 8. Leverage. Now your communication has weight because it is backed by consequence. This is practical psychology. People make fast judgments from visible behavior. A meta-analysis by Nalini Ambady and Robert Rosenthal found that short observations of expressive behavior could predict interpersonal outcomes, and observations under half a minute were not significantly worse than observations of 4 or 5 minutes. In plain language, people read signals fast. So if your signals are scattered, people read scattered. If your signals are emotional, people read unstable. If your signals are consistent, specific, and backed by output, people read serious. The proof ladder is how you stop begging for credibility. You manufacture it, not through hype, through evidence. You are not waiting for someone to give you belief. You are building the evidence that makes belief rational. And once your proof begins to grow, your words must change, because weak words can sabotage strong work. Rule 4. Use fewer words with higher weight. Weak men use many words because they hope volume creates belief. They explain around the point. They decorate uncertainty with language. They talk longer because they have not built enough evidence to speak shorter. I am just trying to. Maybe one day. I kind of want to. I know it sounds crazy, but I know you probably do not understand, but... Every emotional disclaimer lowers the status of the message. A man who says, "I am thinking about becoming a creator," sounds like he is asking the room to protect his fantasy. A man who says, "I publish every week," gives the room a signal. A man who says, "I am trying to get in shape," sounds like he is negotiating with himself. A man who says, "I train 5 days a week," gives the room a pattern. A man who says, "I want to build something big," gives people fog. A man who says, "I am building a paid community for unsupported men who want proof, discipline, and leverage," gives people position. Specificity communicates seriousness. Vagueness communicates fantasy. Machiavelli understood that speech is never only speech. It is perception. It is posture. It is risk. It is rank. Words do not float outside power. Words reveal whether a man has command over himself. So stop using language that begs for softness. Stop saying maybe when you mean yes. Stop saying someday when you mean now. Stop saying I am trying when you are either doing it or not doing it. Your speech should become heavier as your standards rise. Fewer claims, more evidence. Fewer explanations, more execution. Fewer emotional confessions, more controlled declarations. This does not mean you become silent out of fear. Silence without proof is not power, it is hiding. It means your words must be disciplined enough to match your actions. If the claim is not backed by behavior, do not announce it. If the plan is not protected by structure, do not expose it. If the ambition is still fragile, do not hand it to careless people and then complain when they damage it. You are not a man trying to sound impressive. You are a man whose words are backed by visible consequence, but words are only one layer. Your standards communicate before your mouth does. Rule 5. Communicate through standards. People learn your value by observing what you tolerate. Your boundaries communicate status. Your availability communicates value. Your consistency communicates seriousness. Your reactions communicate self-command. A man who tolerates disrespect while preaching ambition communicates contradiction. If you say you are building power but answer every insult, your signal is weakness. If you say your time matters but you are always available, your signal is cheapness. If you say you are disciplined but disappear after 3 days, your signal is instability. If you say you are becoming undeniable but still need everyone to like you, your signal is dependency. This is where many unsupported men betray themselves. They talk about becoming dangerous, but their phone controls them. They talk about building a new identity, but they still explain themselves to people committed to the old one. They talk about self-respect, but they keep returning to rooms where they are treated like a joke. Understand this clearly. People do not only listen to what you say, they study the cost of crossing you. If there is no cost, your boundary is decoration. When a friend mocks your work and you spend 10 minutes defending it, you did not prove ambition. You proved emotional availability. When a family member dismisses your plan and you beg them to understand every detail, you did not prove seriousness. You proved that their approval still controls your nervous system. When someone disrespects your time and you keep showing up instantly, you did not prove loyalty. You proved that your attention is cheap. Strategic communication is not only what you say, it is what your life repeatedly proves. Standards are silent communication. The world asks, how does this man treat his time, his attention, his body, his promises, his boundaries? And then it assigns rank, not morally, socially. If your standards are weak, people do not hear your ambition. They hear permission to keep treating you cheaply. So stop asking people to respect your ambition. Make your standards difficult to disrespect. But there is another error that destroys unsupported men. They give sacred information to the wrong audience. Rule 6. Choose the right audience. Not everyone deserves access to your vision. This sentence sounds simple until you realize how many men keep handing their future to people who are not qualified to judge it. Your family may love you and still not understand your path. Your friends may like you better when you stay familiar. Low ambition people often judge high-risk goals through fear. This does not always mean they are evil. Sometimes they are just operating from a smaller map. But if you hand your vision to people whose incentives are safety, comfort, control, or familiarity, do not be surprised when they respond with doubt. A mother can love you and still fear your risk. A father can want the best for you and still judge your future through the limits of his own past. A friend can enjoy your company and still feel threatened when your seriousness exposes his stagnation. A co-worker can respect your talent and still prefer you remain useful, available, and trapped inside the same system. That is why audience selection is power. Share strategy with builders, not spectators. Share early ideas with people who understand execution, not people addicted to commentary. Share fragile ambition with people who know how to protect a seed, not people who only respect fruit. Most unsupported men make the same mistake. They confuse emotional closeness with strategic relevance. Just because someone is close to you does not mean they can carry the weight of your vision. Some people get the plan. Some people get the proof. Some people get silence. That is not arrogance. That is protection. The right audience sharpens you. The wrong audience drains you. Strategic communication is not telling everyone everything. It is knowing who gets access, when they get access, and what level of access they have earned. You do not owe full access to people who have not earned strategic relevance. And if your environment cannot see you yet, then you need a new battlefield. Distribution. Rule 7. Turn isolation into distribution. Isolation becomes power only when it produces assets. Otherwise, it becomes rumination. Many men call themselves isolated, but they are not building. They are thinking, scrolling, resenting, imagining, replaying conversations, waiting for energy, waiting for confidence, waiting for one person to say, "I see it now." That is not solitude. That is decay. Real solitude creates proof. Build content, build skill, build a body of work, build public evidence, build a reputation beyond your immediate environment. The unsupported man must stop waiting for a network and start becoming discoverable. If your family does not understand your ambition, fine. The internet can. If your friends do not promote your work, fine. The market can. If your city has no room for your identity, fine. Distribution creates new rooms. But only if you produce. This is where the unsupported man must become honest with himself. Are you isolated because no one sees you? Or are you isolated because you have built nothing that can travel? A portfolio travels. A video travels. A result travels. A testimonial travels. A body of work travels. An explanation dies in the room where you gave it. If your proof cannot leave the room, your reputation cannot leave the room. The strategic communicator does not only speak to the people around him, he builds signals that travel. He documents, he publishes, he improves, he repeats. He lets the world encounter his value without needing permission from the small room that misunderstood him. You are not isolated. You are undistributed. If you are the right viewer, stop false progress. You already know that thinking, planning, and consuming more content can become a private theater where nothing measurable changes. The real problem is that your discipline, proof, positioning, and leverage are not organized into a system that compounds. Stay the same, and your isolation will become a hiding place instead of a factory. Inside Patreon, I go deeper into private frameworks, unfiltered breakdowns, proof systems, positioning, discipline, funnels, leverage, and self-command for men who are done performing ambition. It is not for spectators. It is for builders who want structure behind the doctrine. The decision is yours. And when distribution compounds, the final rule appears. You let the verdict change without your explanation. Rule 8. Let the verdict change without your explanation. This is the highest form of strategic communication. People revise their judgment without you asking them to. Not because you pleaded, because the evidence became too visible. They see the consistency. They see the body of work. They see the audience. They see the money. They see the transformation. They see the calm. They see the man who stopped auditioning. Machiavelli wrote that in the actions of men, especially princes, one judges by the result. The modern translation is brutal. Most people judge your strategy after they see whether it worked. That is unfair. Accept it. The unsupported man does not win by demanding fair interpretation. He wins by building undeniable evidence. Your job is not to convince every doubter early. Your job is to make their old opinion outdated. Do not chase recognition. Create repeated evidence. Let the market, audience, clients, results, and consistency speak. The verdict will change when the signal changes. And if it never changes, you still win, because your life no longer depends on their verdict. This is the part most men miss. The goal is not to become successful so your doubters finally clap. That still makes them central. That still makes your rise orbit around their opinion. The real goal is to become so governed by proof, standards, distribution, and leverage that their belief becomes irrelevant. If they notice, fine. If they apologize, fine. If they pretend they always believed in you, fine. If they remain silent, fine. Because by then you are no longer communicating like a man who needs permission, you are communicating like a man whose life is becoming evidence. So here is the final doctrine. Do not communicate from the wound. Do not live in emotional court. Build the proof ladder. Use fewer words with higher weight. Communicate through standards. Choose the right audience. Turn isolation into distribution. Let the verdict change without your explanation. Strategic communication for the unsupported man is not branding, it is survival. It is how an invisible man becomes legible. It is how pain becomes proof. It is how proof becomes reputation. It is how reputation becomes leverage. It is how leverage becomes freedom. No support, no witnesses, no applause. Good. That means no one owns your rise. But there is one problem left. Most men here build proof and still build the wrong proof. They build effort no one can see. They build skills no one can measure. They build discipline no one can verify. They stay busy, tired, and privately intense, but the world still has no signal to read. So the next move is simple. Build proof that travels. Build proof that can be judged. Build proof that makes your old identity outdated. Build proof that makes disbelief expensive. Stop asking to be believed. Communicate through evidence until disbelief becomes expensive.